Good evening, everybody. My name's Tom Stoukas, coming to you from Sarnia, Ontario, June 26th, Thursday night. It's hot today, another hot day. Ugh, brain is melting. I'm working in this heat, but I'm still alive. So hopefully everybody's keeping cool. So now that this whole thing with Iran has kind of totally settled down for now, I'm sure they'll find another way to liven things back up there, that in that neck of the woods. But now we're focused back on Canada, and I saw a lot of the news today. Was apparently Canada's there's a wave of South Asian racism sweeping through Canada, and I saw that in like various news articles and stories. I guess there's some conference this Sunday in Toronto about some extremist groups in Canada and all this. So it seems like, is it just a slow news day, or are they like, is this a big, like, are they going to do something? Like, are they going to start cracking down on the haters? Sounds like they want to, because there's a lot of bad press for Indians lately. Like, they're making headlines for all the wrong reasons, and it's been a little bit of fodder on X for, like, it's basically doing the work for us, for people who don't want the Indian demographic to take over numerically. It's been easy pickings. Like, they just basically give us more and more reasons to halt immigration. Now it's racism sweeping Canada. No, we just don't want to be turned into India. I don't know. How hard is that to get through people's heads? So I always think these articles, when they come out, it's kind of a precursor to action. What kind of action? So if there's racism sweeping Canada, then who knows what are they going to do about it? I mean, because they're going to do something about it. And yeah, kind of a boring news day. Other than that, so we'll go straight to the feed. Like I said, this heat's killing me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just working too hard. All right. Let's look at some of this. This is the first post. We're talking about Indians. And Pierre mentioned this. I mentioned this yesterday about Pierre's tweet about calling for the members of Iran's Republican Guard or whatever, officials from Iran, to be deported. Like a few dozen of them, whatever. Yeah, deport them, fine. But he never talks about deporting the millions of Indians here, or the millions of people from other third world countries that, keep coming here. And in fact, he wanted their votes. So, and I was called them Punjabi here. How about we deport millions of Indians instead? What I meant is, instead of focusing on a few Iranians, the real issue is the millions of Indians. But that's the only time Pierre talks about deporting people, is when they're enemies of Israel. So he has to be a good goy and call for their deportation. But the millions of people here that need to be deported, not a word. Fairman's chimed in as well. He said, never even met an Iranian. I've never even met an Iranian in Canada. Indians of all varieties, on the other hand, are a massive problem. So he's kind of making the same point I was. Is like, yeah, Iranians aren't really the biggest issue right now. They are for Israel, but not for us. We got too many Indians here, not Iranians. I met one Iranian in Winnipeg. He seemed like a nice guy. But I met thousands of Indians. I haven't, not by my choice. All right. Next post. Canada, John Pasalis, real estate guy. Canada has quietly given up on making housing affordable. In its latest report, Canada Housing Agency CMHC no longer targets homes that cost no more than 30% of no longer targets home that costs no more than 30% of household income. Its new benchmark, 2019 prices when Toronto homes already, I don't know what that means. Anyway, Canadian housing screwed. It's horrible, like how they've basically commodified housing. It's like basically a speculative asset that could go up or down, whatever, and controlled by corporations, and it's crazy. No easy solution now. Like, needs a radical solution, unfortunately. So I'm just trying to understand what he's saying. Nobody targets homes that cost. Okay. Anyway, basically it's CMHC's saying housing's Canada's screwed. It's criminal, really, what they've done. Before, you could go get a house or apartment in just like that one day. Here's first and last. Now it's like you're applying for a car loan or a mortgage put together just to get a shitty little apartment, and overpriced apartment. And if you want to buy a house, forget about it unless your grandparents left you $200,000 for a down payment. So I don't know how that's going to get fixed. Very big problem in Canada, and it's almost like it's done on purpose to like bring back feudalism, and we're getting that feudalism again, techno feudalism, where nobody owns anything except for the big landlords, and you just rent everything off them. Feudalism, man. Serfdom, feudalism. Next. Haaretz. Israel's war in Gaza has killed over 17,000 children. These are the stories of 28 of them. Alright. I thought there was a picture here. This is Haaretz, so this is like a big newspaper in Israel, basically saying over 17,000 children got killed in Gaza. Very demonic that you could do 2 years of killing kids. I know they say they put them in front of the Hamas, put them in front of people. They put them in front, and that's why we had to kill all those kids. I don't really buy that. All right, so here's the next post. The what we were talking about, how the sweeping hatred of Indians sweeping across Canada. Right? Let's read. This is from the Toronto Star. And I saw other stories to this a certain extent, to the same extent, in other publications. That's why I feel like it's a coordinated thing to prep us for some kind of anti-hate legislation. Because Trudeau didn't really get the anti-hate legislation he wanted, but I think Carney wants to do his buddies in Germany and UK, where they really clamp down on internet people, probably that complain about all the Indians in Canada, probably like me. So, steep rise in hate towards South Asians in Canada documented through social media posts. X. They're probably talking about X. So yeah. So basically, it's a lot of Canadians who don't agree with immigration policy, and obviously they targeted Indians because they're the major demographic that's being imported, but you can't talk about it, and because you're called a racist, and now you're called a well, I'm sure the article says extremist. I'm not a Star subscriber, so I don't even want to read the article. But you know what it's going to say. And of course, they have a picture of Jagmeet Singh. And Jagmeet, I'm sure there's people that didn't like him because he was a Sikh, but I think most people didn't like him because he was a dummy. He's a total dummy. He could be the whitest dude ever. He would have been a dummy still, if the same words came out of his mouth. But of course, Jagmeet's gonna, whatever the hell, he's gonna get the victim points there. But I said in the Star's comments, Canada needs mass deportations to India ASAP. So I guess I'm proving the Star's point right there. They can call and ask me anything they want if they want. They won't though. So that was one article I saw, and then I saw this picture. This is from where? Vancouver. White Rock Pier, British Columbia in the 1980s. Era is one of its busiest times. Oh, how Canada's changed. 1980s. I grew up in the 1980s, and Canada was booming. Like, I know there was economic issues with all the Western countries were going through, but overall, Canada was a well-run, awesome country, envy of the world. And if you notice this picture, that was the Canada I grew up in. Like, we were considered multicultural, but when they say multicultural, it's European multicultural. It was a mix of European cultures, but it jived well because there was no European politics being played out here, literally at all. Like, nobody gave a shit about European politics. So if you're a Portuguese or Greek or German in the 70s or 80s, and if your parents were those, literally nobody talked about politics. Now you got all these third world immigration, sectarian groups throughout the country, and they bring the politics from the third world over here, whether it's Indians or Khalistanis or Sikhs or the Israeli-Palestine thing or the whatever. They bring it all here. So, people say, oh, you can't go back to that, or Canada was never a white country, or this or that, but like, it's kind of obvious, for people saying replacement theory. I mean, you can't get more clear than that picture than this, like this. You can't get more clear to show that it's not a theory, it's not a conspiracy, it's like literally being replaced. I don't know why though. Country was running good. Let's just destroy something that runs well. Okay, next. Oh, I'm totally gonna make the list. I'm sure they'll when they do the crackdown on all this hate. So, City News, Vancouver, British Columbia Premier David Eby says the growing spread of measles across Canada is a sadly predictable outcome of the recklessness of anti-vaccine politicians. So, I don't know where this Eby guy, he's a commie. Like, I don't know where these BC guys, all these BC politicians are crooks and commies. I don't know what goes on out there. It's like a mini California. But, yeah, Eby. The thing with the measles is, they say it's anti-vaxxers, so they're going to talk about the anti-vaxxers that were in the COVID and the convoy, and they're going to say, oh, it's these dumb redneck anti-vaxxers. And it could be a little bit like people that don't get their kids vaccinated. It could be a little bit, but I know for a fact that when you have millions of people coming from all over the world who have spotty vaccination regimens in their countries, they millions of people coming in. You got people coming to schools, kids going to schools from all over the world, and really, do they really know their vaccination status? So, yeah, but we're not allowed to say it's millions of immigrants. Like, I never heard of measles outbreaks my whole 50 years I lived in Canada. Never heard of measles outbreak until now. So, is it anti-vaxxers, or is it the fact that the gates of the country are wide open to all sorts of people that aren't vaccinated for common diseases? But yeah, you can't say anything like that. So I said bringing millions of third world migrants into Canada probably doesn't help with the measles. Because like I said, I never ever heard about the measles till now. And what's been going on now for the last 10 years? Millions of people come into the country from the third world. And, obviously health systems get stressed, and there's no protocol for determining, vaccination for like basic things. And I'm sure they don't ask too hard, because then they don't want to be accused of racism or something. But if your kids here don't get their vax updated, like their school vaccines updated, they get suspended from school. But these ones, they probably get a free pass because they just take their word for it or something. Next post. Really? Okay. Next post. Mark Carney, yeah, he's at NATO, the NATO summit, being all buddy-buddy with everybody. And it says, watch Mark Carney not answer the question regarding if Canadians will see tax increases to cover excessive spending. First, Carney gives an eye roll, then before he makes a statement, he touches his face. Then always been his tell him when he's about to tell a lie. Even note the guy in the background fidgeting and touching his face uncomfortably. These people have screwed Canadians. All right, let's see what he says here. Hold on.
Wow, fast is like that's question 4. About thank you. My other question, I'll try and. Wow.
We haven't heard from Carney in a while, so let's see.
About the commitment to hundreds of billions of dollars cumulatively you've made today. The parliamentary budget officer told us that implies high deficits unless you either raise taxes or cut major projects, social spending. Do you agree with him? And if so, how high a net debt to GDP ratio are you willing to run?
We will grow this economy. We'll grow this economy. We'll balance our operational budget in 3 years. That's our commitment. But we will also invest in this country, including in our defense industry.
So
this country being Canada,
we're gonna grow we're gonna grow everything. That's his solution. So we'll see. When he says grow, he means print money. Print money. So he's a central banker. So what do you expect? It's gonna be money printing time. Look at it. He looks a little tired. I don't know. He looks a little different. Over in NATO, maybe. All right, what's the next post here? A horrific night in the West Bank. Israeli settlers currently attacking Christian village of Taybeh near Ramallah, setting homes on fire and shooting at residents. Of course. Geez, they'll never settle it. Now that they stopped bombing Iran, they need someone to kill. So I guess they kind of the West Bank's right there. So let's go over there. Oh. Next post. Remember when Adamson Barbecue was shut down using 200 police officers and horses while Costco next door was allowed to stay open. The court challenge is still ongoing. Filming this, I discovered the rule of law was dead in Canada. Yeah, I remember this. This was when Jameson, when this guy when he broke this this lockdown. This is in the early part of COVID when people were like afraid, like to defy the mandates because there's so much hysteria and pressure. This early in the COVID, that defying the lockdown like he did was a big thing, and of course John Tory and Doug Ford sent a bunch of police there to shut him down. Ridiculous. But this was about a year or two before the convoy, so he was really at the start. But it was so overkill.
We're not violent, we are peaceful. No one's hurting anyone. There's kids. Please hold your horses. Officers, stand down. No one's gonna hurt you. I promise. No one is gonna
Look at
hurt
this.
you.
Doug Ford's Ontario. I know John Tory's the mayor, but it doesn't matter. Doug Ford's the premier, and he let all this crap happen, this commie crap, and destroyed this guy's business. You know, whether this guy was whether he was a saint or whatever, I don't know. But they destroyed his business. They destroyed a lot of businesses. All right, a little flashback. Next post. I thought this was funny. I don't know if this is true, but it says young women are buying pet pigs so they can avoid being harassed by migrant invaders in France, Italy, and the UK. I don't know if this is true. Let's see this. Okay, so I guess the idea is pigs are, pork is forbidden in Muslim culture, same with Jewish culture. So I guess if you're walking around with a pig, that would be a good deterrent. They don't like dogs either, so you could do that. But I said that they should just get these genetically, if they genetically engineer like little mini pigs, and you can carry them, the girls can carry around their purse, so they'll have like a companion, a fashion accessory, and a bodyguard for mass rape gangs. It would work. It's like when you wear the cross for Dracula, you have your little pig. You can't rape me, I have a pig. But I don't like, it's not really a joking matter, but is that what we've come down to? We have to carry a pig with us so you don't get raped. I mean, not necessarily. The Muslim thing's not so much a big thing in Canada as the UK and the Europe because they're much closer. So it's more of an issue there. But yeah, that's crazy. Pigs. All right. Next post. This is Jeremy McKenzie responding to the Canadian Border Agency investigating dozens of cases of potential Iranian officials allowed into Canada. So it's like the only ones the Canadian Border Agency are going after are conveniently the people that Israel hates and wants expelled or harassed or whatever. But all the millions of other people here that aren't supposed to be here, but Canadian Border Agency, they're right on top of this one. Dozens of cases of potential Iranian officials. Meanwhile, we have millions of real Indians. So, guys, no, not Iran. Your spell check is jacking you up. India is the problem in Canada. India. Yes. Like I said, Europe has more Muslim issue with the Muslims. They got a lot of Muslims coming in. And Africans because of the proximity. Canada has more of an Indian, lots of Indians, and the States has more of the South Americans, plus a little bit of everybody in the world. But yeah. Oh yeah, let's worry about a few Iranian officials instead of the millions of Indians taking over Canada. All right. next post. Yeah, this story is kind of retarded. Winnipeg woman forced to remove hijab on Flair Airlines flight. Okay, let's read this. Not that I care. I'm just curious about the circumstances here. Because usually they don't do this, but... Okay, Muslim woman said she felt helpless and humiliated after she was forced to remove her hijab while boarding a Flair Airlines flight. Okay, she was returning home from Winnipeg after a family trip to Bangladesh. Surprise! Bangladesh, right beside India. Used to be part of India, actually. She went through airport security without any issue, but when she went to board her Flair Airlines flight, things took a turn. They looked at the passport and screamed. He said, "You don't look anything like your picture. What is this?" Okay. So the passport for her was taken nearly 10 years ago before she started wearing the hijab. So, okay. Anyway, the point is they made her take off her hijab because she had a very old, she was probably due for a passport renewal because 10 years, I got mine 10 years and I'm due for one. But they didn't think it was her, so they made her take it. Whatever. I don't care. I just think it's hilarious that these CP24 are making big deal out of this. But I said Cry Me a River because I don't remember CP24 doing any heart-wrenching stories of people, Canadians, who couldn't travel to visit a dying family member due to the government mandates, which banned people from flying who weren't vaccinated. And, Canada's a big country. So if you live in Toronto and your uncle's going to die and he lives in Alberta, the only way you're going to go see him before he dies or go to his funeral is fly. And we were banned from flying for months, a few months at least. And it would have been longer if there wasn't a convoy or it wasn't any thanks to Pierre or the Conservatives. It was the convoy that broke that stupid mandate. But I didn't see no stories on Canadian media about, and I know people. I know a girl whose dad died. She was in Greece, and her dad was a businessman here, died, and she couldn't, she had little, she couldn't fly to Canada. She could fly to Canada for the funeral, but she had to be quarantined, and then she couldn't leave Canada unless she was vaccinated. So she had babies, so she would have had to leave her babies and then not be able to go back to them. I don't see no heart-wrenching stories about that. So she missed her dad's funeral because of these stupid regulations, and this one's crying because she had to take off her hijab. Come on. This is why stupid country we are. Because of stories like that. All right.
Intervention. If it
now,
for your...
This is Goblin, Ben Shapiro. They're all mad. I think they're all mad. These guys were the ones pushing for the U.S. to get into war with Iran. What's he say here?
And anybody who's a close watcher of politics can tell whom that, by the way, notice how every leak tends toward one direction in the Trump administration, the neo-isolationist direction.
Neo-isolationist. So basically, if you're against the war, you're an isolationist. That's what they used all the time before.
Inside the Trump administration, it's sort of a dual narrative. Narrative number one is that actually everything here was unsuccessful. Sure, the 12-day war, which completely decimated Iran's top military levels, killed their ballistic missile program, destroyed their missile launchers, killed their top nuclear scientists, and hit their nuclear facilities. Sure, all of that happened, but it didn't really work. It didn't really work. So the neo-isolationists, it turns out, were right. This is the claim that's now being made by some of them, based on nothing, as I'll explain in a moment. And then there is the other claim that is being made by the neo-isolationists and now leaked out to prominent media outlets. That claim is that if it had not been for the intervention of the neo-isolationists, World War III would have happened. It definitely was going to happen, except that they intervened and they stopped that madman Trump. Now, first of all, if you're a neo-isolationist in the administration, and I know that there are many of you there, at the top levels of the administration. I'm fully aware.
It is
many
Goblin's
of us
voice, too, little weasel.
If you are undermining the foreign policy of the President of the United States in this way, you ought to quit. If you believe that the President of the United States was going to get us into World War III, except for the amazing advice of the neo-isolationists, that's not true. You know it's not true, and now you're trying to cover your own ass for the fact that you oppose the President's policy. And this narrative that you're retailing is a lie. It is not even remotely true. The notion that Donald J. Trump was going to get us into World War III...
No, Netanyahu was
always empty. That was always an empty notion. And you now trying to backfill and suggest that if it had not been for your personal interest...
He's just butthurt because Israel started the war with Iran. They wanted the U.S. to get in, and Trump didn't end up going in, thank God. And Ben Shapiro's trying to say, no, the isolationists didn't do... They think they prevented the war. Well, you don't think Trump was listening to people pissed off? If he would have went into Iran, they would have been totally pissed off at him. So, yeah, I think he was listening. But Shapiro doesn't mention the fact that Israel started the damn war. All right. Okay. Hopefully that just settles down now. But I'm sure they'll try and rile up the reason for the states to go into war against Iran. All right. Next post. So we're talking about anti-Indian sentiment on X and racism against Indians, and that's the kind of the theme I saw today in the Canadian media, and how much hatred is sweeping the country. And now we have this, there's a conference, National Security Conference, United Against Extremism. They got a bunch of Canadian podcasters or whatever, commentators, and it's sponsored by some Indian group and some Jewish group. And they're bringing together Canada's top voices from multiple fields to decipher the threats posed by hostile foreign and ideological movements and how they fuel domestic extremism. What the hell does that even mean? So basically they're saying, I don't know what they're saying. They're saying like domestic extremism. Like they must be talking about the Khalistani things against the Hindus, maybe, who knows? Or they're talking about who knows what they're talking about. I have to look into this. I'm sure we'll get some clips from it. But they got this guy over there. Why do they always look like this? And they got the hat, the glasses, the flannel shirt, the beard. And they always have this weird look like they're trying to take a shit. And then they got a Grandma Wyatt going to this independent journalism. I have to look into this, but it sounds like a weird conference just to talk about all the things that bug them. Daniel Boardman. So it should be funny to see what they have to say. But absolutely subversive traders of Canada should be deported to India or Israel since they love it so much. Yeah, I know they're in favor of tons of Indians coming here, just not the Khalistani type. All right, there's the Toronto Star. That's the one we were signing. A wave of South Asian racism sweeping Canada, and the Liberals' missteps on immigration fueled the problem. Well, there you go.
And I know,
of course, they weren't missteps. They were calculated and purposeful decisions to flood Canada with immigrants. They were. But now we're the extremists for bitching about it. Well, I guess we're going to keep bitching about it. All right. Next post. I just have, like I said, I have a feeling like these stories, these kind of stories about extremism and hate movements in Canada, it's just like a prelude to this kind of speech crackdown. I could see it coming. Next post. Here is the likely next mayor of New York. Democratic primary He won the Democratic primaries. Zoran Mamdani. So he's a crazy like socialist. Like he's basically like Olivia Chow and all the Calgary and Edmonton mayors. Basically foreign-born Indian. Well, Chow's Chinese, but the two in Calgary and Edmonton are Indian and foreign-born socialist. And just determined to destroy the city. Like, look at Toronto, Edmonton, Calgary. It's going to they're going to shit. So I was joking. I said, what new name will this guy give Times Square if he's elected mayor? Any guesses? So that's like, because we had in Toronto, Yonge and Dundas Square. And it was the coolest square. It's kind of like our Times Square in Toronto. If you go, you'll notice the similarities to Times Square. And the guy they named Dundas, the guy that named the square after, was some kind of like a British officer or whatever. Anyway, they tagged him as a racist for having slaves or being involved in something with slave movement. But apparently it was all bullshit. But anyway, they changed the name. Under Olivia Chow, they changed the name of Dundas Square to Sankova Square, which is some African tribe's motto. I don't know. Has nothing to do with Toronto. But you name the most popular square in Toronto after some obscure African village or something. So yeah, I'm sure maybe this guy will name Times Square. I don't know what he'll name it. Jihad Square or who knows. Or Indian Delhi Square. Is kind of my little Toronto inside joke, because people would be like, "Why is he renaming Times Square?" But it's because of Toronto renamed their square at Sankova Square. If I were mayor of Toronto, or if a candidate for mayor of Toronto, the first thing they should say is, "I'm renaming that back to Dundas Square." Not Sankova Square or whatever. I'll never call it that. So we'll see what he does at Times Square. Next post. Okay, we're talking to about India. Welcome to India. I saw this post. And I saw this post because I thought it was interesting, because I used to go to the town pool. I stopped going because I didn't like the way they run things. I have an autistic daughter, and they treat her like a criminal. But I noticed when I went there was Indian guys there, and they didn't have any little kids with them. Like me, I don't go to a town pool unless I have kids, right? Because otherwise it's weird. You know, if I want to go swim, I'll go to the beach, or I go to my friend's house who has a pool. I'm not going to go to a town pool with little kids and women. And anyway, I see this like 3 or 4 or 5 groups of them go to the pool, and they'd go and hang out there, and I noticed right away the women would just start covering up and leaving and getting out of the pool. So I was like, this is what they want, you know. This is what they want, you know. They want to drive me out with my kid, who has a little bit of some issues, but not many. But this is fine for them. Like, anyway, I saw this post today, and it kind of reminded me of what I saw. So it says, a group of 5 fully clothed men have been going to Park Jerry's outdoor public pool in Montreal to stare at women in swimwear and take pictures. Sometimes they'll make fun of or yell at the women in the pool. SBVM, I don't know what that means. SBVM. Oh, Montreal Police has been notified, but they ignore the situation. See, look at these dudes. Look at these motherfuckers. Look at they think they're in fucking India or something. And then you wonder why there's a wave of anti-Indian hate sweeping across Canada. It's because of this shit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're looking at people in the pool. Okay? Oh, man. You know what they need? They need a great gang. Some baseball bats. clear the area. Oh man, Canada is such a gay country. So that's it. That's crazy. And this isn't just isolated. Like, you literally can't go to a water park or any public beach without getting, just have your day destroyed by the India experience. Oh man, so depressing. I don't know. It's gonna be a problem because stuff like this, it's not little things. It's bad. It's gonna be a bad situation if they run into the wrong people doing this kind of stuff, and then you'll see some problems. Because this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. I don't care. It's unacceptable. It's disgusting. You want to do that? Go to India. Find a watering hole in India and watch the elephants do whatever they do. No, we have to send a message that stuff like that isn't tolerated in this country. All right? Simple as that. We have standards here, We have to adhere to our standards. And our last post tonight, because I'm ready to die from heat stroke still. I thought this was interesting. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says the public desire in her province to quit Canada has never been higher. So she's pretty interesting for saying stuff like this. I think she's using it as a bargaining chip. Or she's just saying to Mark Carney, you got to smarten up with Alberta, or otherwise I won't be able to control the crowd. So I think she's playing it as best she can, But let's read the article quick and then we're finished, because it's going to be another hot one tomorrow too. So like I said, all this Indian stuff, I feel like they're going to do some kind of big crackdown on us. We're just speaking our mind. Maybe if you don't flood the country with millions of people that, don't really mesh with the whole vibe here, we wouldn't have this issue. You ever thought about that? All right. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says public desire for Alberta separatism hasn't been higher. It's never been higher. She's never seen such a high level of separatist sentiment. Okay. So basically, I think it's like a bargaining tool, saying it's Ottawa's got to smarten up because they're being retarded with Alberta. So, yeah, we're keeping an eye on the Alberta separatism thing. But I think Carney's has this kind of like a bit of few months to show his cards, to show his best offer. I think things will go from there. All right. That was just an interview, I guess. Slow news day. So, but yeah, keep an eye on these Indian stories. And it's not like we wanted to talk about this. It's you're forcing the issue. I mean, it needed to be talked about 10 years ago. So, but now they're going to just basically criminalize talking about it instead of talking about it. Before you talked about it, you're a total racist. And I seen people look at Don Cherry. They did Don dirty. He's ready to die now. And they destroyed his legacy. They destroyed his all his accomplishments. And the last remaining years of his life, productive years, when he could have been a really good hockey analyst, he said some stuff wasn't that bad. It was, that's how people talk, old people. They're pretty blunt. And they destroyed him for nothing. So that's why people are not happy with the demographic situation. It's not has nothing to do with hate. Trust me. Anyway, our next broadcast will be Monday. I don't even know what day it is. It's Canada Day. Oh shit, Canada Day. So Monday, something, the day before Canada Day. June 27th is tomorrow. 28th, 30th. I think 30th. Anyway, Monday. And then I gotta decide if I'm gonna go to Toronto on Canada Day. See what kind of hellhole the city is and see what it's like on Canada Day. So until Monday, I hope everybody has a nice weekend in southwestern Ontario. Try to stay cool and keep your Indian hate in check. No, I'm just joking. Anyway, we'll see you Monday. Talk to you guys later.